Hey everybody, this is Christine DeGraff with another episode of TNT Bootcamp, and today I have a special guest co-host. I've got Ben Fisher from Steady Demand in the house. Hey Ben.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And we have an awesome guest today, and he's also, of course, my co-host normally, Ronnie Bincer from the Hangout Helper. Hey Ronnie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderfully, and I'm so glad we're doing a show. And normally I'm a co-host, but now I'm featured, I think.
Yes, you are. And just in case anyone doesn't know Ronnie, and I can't imagine anyone on Google Plus that doesn't know Ronnie Bincer, but let's just pretend somebody doesn't know you. I know you have a extensive background in software training. You have for several years been the Hangout Helper here on Google Plus. And you are also a Google Trusted Tester. Can you tell us a little bit about all of that?
You bet. I started life a long time ago, and many, many years ago I traveled around the world training people how to use software in front of a physical crowd in a physical room. And so when this Hangout on Air stuff came out and this Hangout video conferencing thing came out, I jumped all over it because for me this was another way to do training without having to do all the travel. Because if anyone's traveled for a living, which is what I did for 12 years, you get tired of it. So this is really cool to be able to do training and interaction with people literally all over the world without any geographical boundaries. So how did I get here? So I did a lot of training. Back then, I got involved with what's called search engine optimization or video search engine optimization, video SEO. And then Google Plus came out. So many of you have heard the story, so I'm moving through it quickly. But when Google Plus came out, I played with it, tried to see if it would make an impact for the search results, and it did. And then they came out with this Hangout tool and then the Hangout on Air broadcasting tool. So I jumped all over that, knowing that a new tool by Google isn't usually explained very well, so I was going to do my best to help people learn how to use it. So then I built up a good following with people that are interested in Hangouts. And I became the Hangout Helper because, honestly, hangouthelper.com was already taken. So I've got the hangouthelper.com. And in the midst of doing all this training, Google recognized my skill set and asked me to become part of their beta testing team for Hangouts, which is what's technically called the Trusted Testers. And for 2 years, we were not able to say that in public because I'm under a non-disclosure. But then they allowed us to say it. We still can't talk about some of the things we're testing. But the advantage is I can see some of the reasoning why they make things, and then when it does come out public, it's a lot easier for me to try to explain and help people learn it pretty quickly.
You know, and it's really great though, Ronnie, that you did get the Hangout Helper because, I mean, come on, let's be real, let's be serious here. The fact is a lot of us today wouldn't be here today if we hadn't met you, Ronnie Bincer, the Hangout Helper. I mean, I remember back in my days when I was first getting started with HOAs, I had a show coming up, and we had Hulk Hogan, and we had GoDaddy in another corner, and we had Mark with us, and Trap Hagen, and Joshua Berg, and you were in there as well. And I was scared. And we all know that that's one of the problems with Hangouts and with technology in general, is that if you mess up the first couple times your experience, that can really, as for a business especially, it can really put you off to wanting to do them anymore. And which we're going to get to that a little bit later. But you know, that was just my personal experience, and I think we've got a bunch of testimonials that kind of started coming through the stream, don't we, Christine? As far as
I'm going to put them up. But yes, my personal experience as well, you know, with Hangouts is I just said, you know, I was a guest on a couple, and I said, you know, I want to do Hangouts, but I want to do them right. So let me just hire Ronnie and just ask him some questions, get some one-on-one time with him, and you know, I feel like it really, really benefited me. But
that's how we first met, I think. And
yes.
And then from there we decided let's do some kind of venture stuff together, which is why we started TNT Bootcamp.
Absolutely. And you know, I've said before, if you want to, you know, there's a lot of talk about how to get the attention of an influencer. Well, hiring them gets their attention real fast. You can get that, you know, relationship taken to the next level on a much quicker basis if you just go ahead and hire them. So Let me bring up some comments, and I'll have Ben read them.
All right. So, yes, Christine DeGraff. I'm happy to be able to ask him when I run into a few problems. Finally, I really learned a lot of basics and advanced stuff, and that's from Adelheid Hornlein. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
We call her Heidi. Her nickname's Heidi.
Heidi. And then we have, you want to bring up the next one there from Andrew? Real quick, Christine. And then Andrew Hatchett. How you doing, Andrew? Ronnie Bincer has not only helped me master Hangouts, but inspired me to start 2 communities to help others learn about them. Awesome. Denver Prophet Jr. I was a member! Exclamation point. I learned several key aspects of Hangouts on Air that I had been dying to know for months.
That's great.
Then we have the next one, if you want to bring that up, Christine.
Yep.
Zara, Christine DeGraff, Ronnie Bincer rocks! He helps his community and he has helped me personally solve a problem and find the best way to do an HOA. Absolutely love the midweek marketing app. Thank you, Zara.
Sheila?
Sheila Hensley. Thankfully, I learned everything I know about Google Hangouts from Ronnie Bincer. I use my knowledge to teach my students. So easy when you have the knowledge. Ronnie's teaching is a confidence builder. I can absolutely attest to that 100%. Jeff C. Jeff, I think he runs a show called The Manly Pinterest Show? Yeah. So any success I've had with my show is because of Ronnie Bincer. Awesome. And from Lowell Ann, Ronnie Bincer got me started to continue to learn and host my weekly mastermind thanks to you.
Excellent.
And there are lots more, but people can read them in the comments, and I'm sure more will come in as well. So definitely it's awesome, you know, that you ask for a testimonial and everybody jumps in and you know, it just really speaks to what you have done here on Google Plus for sure. But let's jump in. So I think we were going to talk about, well, the fact that TNT Bootcamp is obviously a Hangout on Air. Why don't you were talking about interactive TV. Can you talk about that?
Yes, for sure. Interactive TV, I think, is what makes these Hangouts so special because it allows us, while we're live, to do what we just did. We can ask a question to people that are viewing, let them type in their answers without them fitting into the film strip, because at some point you run out of space or it's just a little too crazy with the technology. And people can just type in the comments, answer the questions, and we can bring those questions or answers right on screen, or vice versa. If they have questions for us, they type in some questions, we then can see them, bring them onto the screen, and then address those questions. And one of the beauty about that, to me, is it allows people in the viewing audience to be part of the show.
That's questions on Google Plus and YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah, the comments can come in from Google Plus or YouTube, or even Twitter if you've got things set up appropriately so that you can bring those things in, because we're using a tool called Comment Tracker, which is something that is free and allows you to use the comments that you're finding out there and bring them right up onto the screen. There's some other ways, other tools that Google gives you, like what's called the Q&A app, and that allows you to ask similar questions and get answers, but you're not able to actually bring them right onto the screen. And to me, bringing it onto the screen makes a big difference, because then you're part of the show.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Being able to engage with your audience on a very personal level, just like we just did with all of the testimonials. They're not part of the show, but they are part of the show. And as a business, being able to really connect with people on that one-to-one level is so important, because that's what you're doing, is you're building your brand, you're building that trust. And you might not have been able to build it one-on-one yet, or if you're maybe trying to get in touch with an influencer. Commenting on a show is a great way to start building that relationship. So, you know, I mean, let's actually talk a little bit about that, how small and large businesses are able to really take advantage of the HOA to broadcast their message and build that trust.
Yeah, when you're a business and you're needing to communicate your message, this tool that we've got right here, the broadcasting thing that'll automatically turn into a YouTube video that you can then slice and dice and use it into different methods or delivery systems later on is just phenomenal for making content. But when you bring in the idea of this interaction, this, I think, is what makes it so unique. Because when you interact with your viewers live, two things happen. One, they were part of the show, so they're going to tell other people, and that's going to help get some traction for the videos after the fact. And then the next show you do. So if you're doing a series, that's going to help. But the second thing that's incredibly important, most people don't think about, but I like to talk a lot about it, is it builds trust. Because when I'm able to respond to a question you've asked, and you see that my response actually makes sense, it's not just me blowing you off, then you've come to the point where you've trusted me, and that happened incredibly quickly, and a business can do this without much cost at all because of the free nature of doing these Hangouts on air. So you really got your own interactive TV network that allows you to build trust in, I think, a faster way than almost any other way possible.
Right on. And everybody, just so you know, really quickly, in the Hangout description, we do have something which we're going to be talking about here very shortly, which is all about Hangouts. So that was just a quick introduction of Ronnie and a little bit about his background and a little bit about businesses. So just stick around, though. We have some information coming up very shortly about all about Hangouts.
But talking about interactive, I see a comment out there, people concerned about, can you bring Twitter comments in through Comment Tracker? The answer is yes, you certainly can.
It's just a little bit tricky. You just got to use the widget.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Hashtag search.
So some of the stuff's pretty nerdy, and when I say nerdy, that means it gets a little tricky and technologically challenging at times, and that's one of the reasons why I've been around to try to help people so that they don't start a show and then end up having to repair their reputation. Because sometimes if you're in here and you're just focused so much on the technology, you can't focus on your message, it's just pretty hard to get past that, and now you have to clean up. And so what we want to try to do, what I've been trying to do for a while, is help people learn how to use the tool well so that when they're doing their shows, they can truly focus on their message instead of the technology.
So just really quickly, Ronnie, let's talk about building an audience. So there's a lot of different ways for businesses and for people to kind of slice and dice the pie and use Hangouts in multiple ways. But when we're talking about building trust, what is one to do when you don't have an audience?
It's a great question, and this is one of the things. I've got the top 10 mistakes people make in Hangouts on Air that's on this same website. One of the things that people do is they start a show without having an audience, and so as a result, they're talking to the air. Not a lot of people know about it, and then they start to wonder, is this even worth it? So to back up, you want to try to build an audience first before you do your shows. And there's multiple ways to do it, but what I find is one of the best ways is to go to somebody else's show and be active in the comments, because a bunch of things happen there. One, other commenters start to see you, and they start to get to know you a little bit because of the way you ask questions or you make comments. But secondarily, you see other commenters, and then you can start to gather them into circles that make sense for you that are based on the topic that the Hangout on Air was about when you went there. So not only are you being exposed or seen by other people, you can then decide who are those you want to try to reach out to. And think of it this way, it's a wonderful networking environment, and from that networking is the beginning or the seed stage, in my mind, of building an audience.
That's a great point, and I think if I remember correctly, one of the first things that I learned from you, Ronnie, was actually about being able to invite communities when you're first starting up an HOA. So another way to build an audience too is to get involved in a community and ask a moderator and say, hey, I've got this show. It's going to be about X. Do you mind if I invite your community to the show? So that's another way to bring an audience too.
Right.
I know another way. Is Circloscope. Circloscope, you can actually scoop all of the people who commented or said yes from any public event and put them all into a circle. A lot of them will follow you back. So if you're able to target events that are similar to yours, or your competitors, you can really build an audience quickly that way as well.
Yeah, and one of the things at least I find very useful is when you start to gather these people into circles that are watching similar shows that you're wanting to do, then I would encourage you to watch their postings and see if they really normally talk about these same things that you're interested in, and then you put them into a sort of a higher level of focus so that you can start to develop a relationship with them. Because once you've developed this relationship in just comments, by resharing their posts, by commenting on their posts, then it's more likely when you invite them to one of your Hangout on Air broadcasts that they're going to say, yes, I'd like to come.
And then they'll engage with you at that point. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, and they might even help you run the show or join you in the show or start to do ventures together with you. It's just a long process, but it's a rewarding process because of the way you actually really connect with people.
Yeah, exactly. I say I do business with 9 out of 10 people that I do Hangouts with. So let's start jumping into a little bit all about Hangouts. So the Hangout Mastery community kind of really inspired you to start this new product and project. Can you tell us a little bit more about the kind of the structured approach to training and how important that All About Hangouts is for people who are just starting out?
You bet. The All About Hangouts product, it's only been out a week, okay? So at this point in time, depending on when you're watching, it just started basically the beginning of 2015. And that came about because I was seeing a fair amount of activity in the Hangout Mastery that was sort of straining what that particular group was for. So let's talk about what that is first, the Hangout Mastery, and then we'll see how they compare and contrast. So the Hangout Mastery is a group of people that are interested in upping their game when it comes to Hangouts on Air. And because the product tends to change frequently, and it has glitches or bugs or it's not always perfect, we've got a wonderful community of people that are helping each other test things that they just, something just happened. Can you test this with me to make sure that now this is the future for it? Or how do I get around this particular problem? People asking about lighting, cameras, specific things in this mastery community, guided by me, because what I do is when I'm legally allowed, I will say things that I know are either just published or just coming up, things like that, and guide everyone in that community. And based on what their questions are, we build training within the community. So the questions come from all over the place. They're from advanced users, beginning users, intermediate users, they're just the whole gamut. But I've noticed that the beginning users, when they get into the mastery community, get a little bit overwhelmed because we've got thousands and thousands of interactive conversations talking about things. And if they're not ready to go to the deeper level, I see people leave relatively quickly because they get a little overwhelmed. So we developed a new product, which is called allabouthangouts.com, and it's a very structured learning environment where if you're wanting to start from the ground up and you want to get to the place where you can get basically confident, we like to say we take you from Hangout Basics to Total Hangout Confidence. There's a lot more that comes after that, but you want to get to the point where you're ready and able to do a show. And I think Ben's showing some examples of some of that right there. Are you showing that, Christine? Because I can't tell. Yes?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So Ben's got a little in the background, so what he's doing is showing some of the stuff that's on the Hangout Foundations. That's what we've named our course. The course is called Hangout Foundations, and there's 9 modules for training, and it's self-guided. So you go in there, you choose a particular module. Hopefully you do them in order, but you can poke around any order you want. You choose a particular module, you play the video, watch it, and along with the video, when we have slides that we show inside the video, below that you've got all the slides. So you can click and download those particular slides if that's one way to help you remember or learn. And along with the video, we have a PDF, a printable PDF that allows you to watch the video. Here, yeah, Ben's got it right there. Great. You can watch the video, and there's a bunch of fill in the blanks. In fact, someone that I talked to, he shared the course with his wife, and his wife doesn't watch video. She just doesn't like video. So she printed out the PDF guide right from the beginning. And one of the advantages of the way I've built the PDF guide is at the bottom of it, there's an answer key. So for all those blanks that you might be not sure exactly what the right answer is, you can just look at the bottom. If you watch the video, then while you're watching it, you can pause it and fill in the blanks. We tell you those exact things right there as part of the video. So it's really depending on how you want to learn, and sometimes learning in multiple modes helps you really solidify the information. So that's the structured nature of what we did for the allabouthangouts.com.
Your videos your voice is breaking up a little. Did you hear that, Ben?
Yeah, just a little bit. That's okay.
Yeah,
That's the one
I want to talk about, the one thing, when I started Hangouts, it's been now, what, a year and 3 months. I started out as a guest, and I really wanted to do a show. And, one of the reasons I decided to reach out and just hire Ronnie is because getting started for me was the hard part. It was like, where do you start? Because some people say, oh, you just click the broadcast button. Some people say, oh, you create an event and you make a SHOA and whatever that is. And, some people said, oh, you start it from YouTube. And, I was just like, I just want a step-by-step. This is how you get started, so I can get started. And, it sounds like that's a lot of what this new product is getting somebody started. Somebody who, wants to do Hangouts. They're not sure where to start. They want to make sure that they do it right, and do it right the first time. Because one thing that I've learned is if you learn something wrong the first time, it's really hard to learn it right later. You kind of get that, just like for me when I'm driving somewhere, if I take the wrong route the first time, I will never be able to get to that place without, step-by-step directions. I'm always going to go with that first path that I learned. So is that kind of, what you see it as? Is somebody getting them started, getting them off and running?
Yeah, for sure. What I've done, and how's my sound now? Is it sounding okay?
Little choppy.
A little choppy. Interesting. Well, this is part of what we deal with on a regular basis sometimes. When I started the Hangout training that I did a lot more consultations one-on-one. And when I see similar questions over and over again, that helps me know this is a particular area of concern. I will communicate that back to Google, which is one of the advantages of where I am, and they will make modifications to the tool. But what generally happens more often is I then know, okay, when I'm about to do training with someone else, these are the 5 things that everybody tends to struggle with. So let's make sure you're not struggling with those, and then we can get you up and running faster. That was part of the foundational keys that I used to create the course, because I know what people tend to struggle with, and I wanted to make sure those things were taken care of. For example, many people, when they first start out, have too many accounts. That's a really common thing. They've got 3 YouTube accounts, they've got 5 other accounts, they don't know how they're connected, and the wrong YouTube account is connected to the wrong channel, or the wrong profile at the wrong page, and we help you in the allabouthangouts.com course navigate through that, figure out what's the right one to use, and then when needed, we even give you a link so you can get directly to YouTube support so they can do some modification for you, because some of the stuff you can't do on your own. You need YouTube to actually help you do it. So that's, like you were saying, Christine, the beginning, the foundational parts to get to the point where you're comfortable and confident is what we do with the All About Hangouts course. There's still more details. There's always going to be more details, but you've got to get to the point where you're confident with what you can do before you start digging into the extras.
Right, and so the product really is great if you're just in your fundamental stage, or if you're even in your brush-up kind of stage. And then that's where, of course, the mastery community really comes into play, is keeping up to date on new and cutting-edge things, and also being able to interact and engage with members and get answers in a very quick and timely basis. Because let's again be real. There is only one Ronnie Bincer, and Ronnie is a busy guy. So. And he's extremely accessible, but the community is also very accessible. I mean, I know personally, I love the community. The community, just a great bunch of people that are very willing to help people. One of the things that I really like about the product, and I'm just going to kind of bring up a real quick slideshow here, is this is a sneak peek into what is covered in the 9 modules. and they're going to go by pretty quickly. So if you want to scroll through and look at it later on the replay, but kind of like what you were saying, Ronnie, is that the hard part is understanding the fundamentals. And when people start getting into Hangouts, there's Hangout video calls, there's the Hangout Messenger box, there's the scheduled Hangout in there, there's the event, and then there's just a plain old private HOA where you do just a couple people just hanging out, and it's not a Hangout on air at all. So there's so many different ways to use it. And that's where a lot of confusion also comes in too. So, but you go ahead and you clarify all of these things during your training, right?
Right. There's a term, I've been around a lot of pilots, and there's a term they like to use. They call it being situationally aware. So you know what's going on around you. You've got the big picture. That's, I think, one of the things that we expect people to get after they take the course. They are definitely going to be aware of all the parts and what the pieces are to make it work for them. And that means for them, those that have taken the course, they're going to be able to be more confident. And that's the goal, right? Is to be Hangout confident, successful Hangouts. Because when you're doing a show and you're not confident, it shows. People can tell. And so this is one of the reasons why we've built the structure the way we want it done, and it's really helping people. But another point for those of you watching, because many of you watching already feel pretty good or pretty confident about your skill set at this point. Do you want to teach the new people you're trying to get onto your shows? That's a big question. And if the answer is maybe or maybe not, that's another reason to point them to allaboutHangouts.com, because it's going to allow you to do your show more efficiently with someone who's a little bit more confident about being in the show because they have gone through enough of the training that they get it. They're going to be able to come in and know what to do rather than you having to guide them each and every time.
So this is for guests as well?
Oh, for sure. Anybody that wants to use Hangouts and they want to be confident in their use of the Hangouts, this is what the product's for.
I want to bring up some comments because we have a bunch. Going back to Nazim says, great advice, Ronnie, on focus circles. I like that. And he says he's doing an outdoor live HOA this Sunday, and thank you, Ronnie, who has taught him everything he knows about Hangouts.
You're quite welcome, Nazim.
Mel says, great advice on building an audience as well as trust. It's like opening up a store without a product to sell or having customers. Very relatable what you said.
Good.
Jeff C. says, the ability to bring people in live to ask questions of your guests is huge. That is actually my CTA in my podcast since it is so unique. I guess that would be call to action?
Yeah.
And Carmen agrees the most attractive element of an HOA is the ability to ask a question in real time and get your answer immediately. In the process, we become closer.
For sure, especially if Carmen doesn't look quite like a cat.
Cat with its tongue sticking out, actually.
Mel says he still has much to learn about Hangouts on Air and how they can work for him. That's why he is here.
Fantastic.
And Donald Brandt has a question.
You still got Mel.
Ronnie, could you clear up the question of headset and microphone? I think it is totally unnecessary to wear headphones or use a mic. I am wireless with the C615 Logitech plugs in the side of the laptop and rarely, if ever, have sound issues. Did you want to address that?
Sure. Here's the deal. When you're doing a Hangout alone, you don't need a headset. You don't need speakers or microphones. Whatever's built in, it's probably good enough if you're just doing a broadcast alone. Okay? When you are doing a broadcast with two people, you probably don't need that much as well. But once you get to a third person, everything else goes wacky. So because now there's the chance that the sound that you're saying is coming out of the speaker of person number 3, which is going right back into their microphone, so you get a little bit of an echo. And that little bit of an echo starts to get exaggerated as you get further into the show, and it's more likely the more people you have in the film strip that you're going to end up having problems with echo. So that's why I suggest people use a headset, because if at the minimum you don't use a headset, at least put in earbuds, because that's going to take your speaker sound and isolate it away from the microphone. But again, if it's just you and you're doing your broadcast alone, you don't need all this other stuff because there's no echo. It's just you. But once you start getting other people in the show, that echo is going to start to come in, and it can get very distracting.
I could tell you, I cannot even think or speak if I hear an echo of myself talking. So, you know, I have had to just stop a show before and just say, where's the echo coming from? Somebody has to fix that. So definitely.
So I'll share a really quick story about that and what I learned. Actually, Ronnie, it was when we were doing the show back in the Hulk Hogan show. And it was my first show ever. And I made a very rookie mistake. And that was I had the YouTube version of it up on the other screen.
Yeah.
And I had accidentally, it started playing. And it caused an echo. And on my first show, I was reading from a script. I hadn't memorized anything. I was reading from a script. Again, another rookie mistake. And all of a sudden, I started to have to talk like this because I could hear everything coming through my microphone, my headset, and it was playing. So yeah, I completely agree with Christine. Echoes can totally mess up your game. I will say this is, I've moved from the headset because I think the headsets personally to me are distracting, and I've moved to a Bluetooth Logitech Voyager actually, which I use for my phone as well. And so far seems to be working pretty well. It's low profile.
All right, I've got a couple more. I've got another question here this one's for Ben. Lon McClure wants to know, what tool are you using to display a second feed slideshow to the one side of the main feed? It doesn't look like ManyCam.
You're right, Lon. It is not ManyCam. It is actually a program called XSplit. Costs about $34 a quarter for 3 months, and is very functional. Even allows for doing green screen extremely effectively. I'm not currently using green screen. I'm just using a regular old backdrop, but it allows you to do all sorts of layering effects and such.
And we've got Andrew Hackett. He says, the All About Hangouts course is a perfect gift for anyone you know who is new to Google Plus and Hangouts. So there's a nice plug for you. And actually, Devin just said he just purchased it.
Woohoo!
All right.
Good job, Devin.
Fantastic. So what I did is I just changed up my lower third, and for those that have been doing Hangouts for a while, you have the option to store some, and you can turn them on, turn them off. So I used to have the TNT Bootcamp one. Now I've got another one here that says allaboutHangouts.com. So in the future, you're going to be seeing more and more of this, because that's one of the places we want to help drive some traffic, because not only do we have paid training, but there's also free training there, because we want to have people learn enough to be interested, and then when they decide, yep, this is for me, then they purchase the product. And by the way, it is currently on a launch special, so instead of it being $179, it's $79. We have $100 off for the launch special phase of the product. So you do want to take advantage of it now, because that locks in your price. It's not a monthly thing. This is a one-time purchase. You get the product. You'll have access to the product, training product materials, for a full year, and then we'll have some other special deal. The reason why we limit the amount of time you have access to it is because we will continually update that product. We're going to keep it as up-to-date as possible. And so that takes time and effort, and that means money. So that's one of the reasons why we have it as in essence, it's a year. The other thing is, this is going to sound funny, but to me it's actually reality. When you know you've got a limited time to use it, you actually go use it. Even if the limited time is a year, which is a long time, you will hopefully get your money's worth out of it. And that's our goal. And we give you a 30-day money-back guarantee on it as well. So if you do try it and it just doesn't fit for what you want, we'll give you your money back. But we do expect that it should be the answer to what you need if you are looking for Hangout foundations and you want to get things going efficiently and professionally.
And Lowell wants to know, what is the cost of the course?
Cost of the course, $79 right now, because of the launch special price.
And here is that link for the $100 off limited time special offer. It's allaboutHangouts.com/launch-special. It's not showing on the screen, unfortunately, but it's launch-special.
Right, and it's visible right there in the details area or the YouTube description for this particular video, or if you just go right here with the URL right below, just allaboutHangouts.com, that'll get you there as well.
So I'm going to bring up a few more comments. Annie wants to know, she said she's still trying to figure out how Hangouts can work for her in promoting her designer hospital patient gown business. Her products are much appreciated by her customers, great for anyone who has a relative or friend in the hospital. So what would you suggest to her, just off the top of your head, how to use Hangouts to promote her hospital patient gown business?
Well, when she's built her audience, right, so the people that she knows that might be interested in the product, and she's communicated with them, then it's even possibility that she could bring some of them into the film strip to talk about when they bought that product for someone in the hospital, why it was so much better than the standard stuff. And because it's such a visual environment, she can be holding up the different designs. And so it's very, very visual. You can show the design right there on the screen. And besides that, another idea is you can have pictures, right? So you can do screen share of all the different designs that you've got. So when people are asking questions, well, what about the back of this? How many buttons or ties? You know, I don't know all the hospital gear, but let's say there's different ties. Is there 3 or 4 of them? If that makes a big difference, she can show that with the particular pictures and contrast. So you compare the standard stuff with the stuff that she's got, and the visual aspect, I think, will really help make an impact. Then Ben's very familiar with this, the idea that she could be talking about 5 things, addressing 5 different common questions, and then later on take that one video she made from the Hangout on Air and slice it into 5 individual products that could then be put onto her website.
You know, and the Craft Star is doing a lot of, you know, Hangouts that showcase products and stuff, so maybe she might want to take a look at them as well, see what they're doing. Well, we've got about 2 minutes left, Ronnie, so do you want to wrap this up for us? And let me bring up 1 or 2 more people here. Scott Scrowcroft is in the audience. All About Hangouts is perfect for those I've spoken with who are serious about learning HOAs. Ray is in the audience. Anyone who's produced Hangouts on Google+, including himself, Ronnie Bincer, huge thanks for helping us with the technology out of the way so we can concentrate on the content. And I think everyone can, who knows you and who loves you can agree with that.
Yeah, you know, actually, I think there's one thing that we have not talked about, and that is the bonus content that comes as well. And that teaches a little bit more of a higher level and kind of addresses how a business can use the multiple flavors of Hangouts basically to their advantage, right? So tell us a little bit about that, Ronnie.
Yeah, the bonus content, part of the deal is we decided we needed 9 modules because that was going to cover, we didn't want it to be so overwhelming and so expensive and things like that. So we brought it to the point where 9 is a good number to cover a lot of the stuff. But then I realized, you know what, we've talked so much about this Hangout on Air broadcasting thing, even though that's what a lot of people buy it for. I want to make sure that they really understand some of the real value of collaborative communication. So working with people no matter where they are in the world is something you can do in regular Hangouts that don't necessarily need to be recorded. And we just added that in as some bonus things to help you work with small groups or small teams that could be literally anywhere in the world. And if it's required or desired, you could make a recording out of those by using the different private recording methodologies for the Hangout on Air broadcasts. But for the majority of them, we just call them Hangout video calls, where you're meeting with people and you can get very efficient with the way you bring things to reality. I mean, the whole process of starting this Hangout on Air show that we're doing right now with TNT Bootcamp, Christine and I met multiple times in regular Hangout video calls to work through the concepts. What are the kind of things we want to cover? Who are the kind of guests we want to bring in? what are the types of tools or techniques we want to talk about. We do all this planning, and literally, Christine and I have never met each other in real life. But we've been doing shows for more than a year.
We need to change that, don't you think?
Yeah, we could. But,
all right.
This is some of the magic of Hangouts, I think.
And here again is the link just doesn't want to show. It's too long. But it's all about hangouts.com/launch-special to get the $100 off today. And that's also in the details of the event. So but thank you so much. Thank you to Ben for co-hosting with me. Ben, do you want to tell people how they can reach you?
Yeah, people can reach me at +BenFisher, or they can go to steadydemand.com. Actually, we just launched our new website design today. Also, this is a premiere, but we also launched our brand new audit tool today, actually, too. It's been spiced up and enhanced. So that's my call to action. After you buy Ronnie's product, is go check out steadydemand.com.
Awesome. All
Fantastic. Right. And thanks for the opportunity here to be on the other side and be the guest talking about a particular tool and different techniques you can use to take advantage of that tool. We hope it's useful for you. Actually, I know it will be. If you're interested in Hangouts, it's going to be the thing for you to get you going. And
remember, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you cannot lose. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on the 3rd Monday of February for the next TNT Bootcamp.